Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if it goes any higher than what you can. That's good. Okay. I did start my first dispensary in California in 2005. There was a time when California was a leader in this industry, which we are no longer. And part of the reason for that is because of what's happened since we started doing this is we haven't really gotten with the program. When I started in 2005, my first dispensary was not licensed by the city or the county that I operated in because there was no licensing permit process at that time. Not too many cities in the state had one at that time. So the question was always, how long is this going to go on? Am I going to get busted? Can I work with the cities and the counties to move this forward and to continue growing the process that had started with Prop 215 in 1996. I worked with the city of Clear Lake and the county of Clear Lake, trying to get the county of Lake actually, trying to get them to come up with dispensary ordinances, cultivation ordinances, and such things. For the 3 years that I worked in that dispensary in Clear Lake. After 3 years of working in Clear Lake, I got an opportunity to open up another dispensary with another group in Santa Rosa called the Snow Patient Group. At that time, I left the Compassion Center in Lake County and started Snow Patient Group with a couple of new partners, and we got a license. The city had just recently passed an ordinance where you could get a dispensary permit in Santa Rosa. They issued 2 permits. And the group that I worked with got one of those very first permits. We've had it ever since. And it was a lot different process than when you do the unregulated process. It's certainly a lot more of a comfortable feeling when you know that it's regulated, you know what the expectations are, and you know what it is that you're supposed to do. The drawback to the regulation that we had in Santa Rosa was that it was very restrictive. Several years later, come forward, a lot of places in California have regulated medical marijuana dispensaries, cities and counties. Santa Rosa had the most restrictive that I've ever heard of or read about in Santa Rosa or in California or anywhere else for that matter. Our hands were tied with a lot of things that we didn't like about patient limits, what days you could be open, what days you had to be closed, what hours you had to be open, and that sort of thing. And so it took working within the confines of that regulation to try and get it changed. But we had a regulation. We didn't say, well, this doesn't work for us, we're not going to do it. We take what we can get, we take what we fight for, and we try to change it. And that's where we're at now in California. We're not the leader in the industry anymore. We will be, again, the leader in this industry if we can ever get our act together and come up with some really good regulation. So we heard a lot of good speakers earlier today and yesterday talking about regulations. It seems like regulations is on everybody's mind. And I can tell you that through my experience, the better regulated it is, the better and more successful you're going to be. But you don't have to stand still for regulations that you don't like. Get them passed, keep working within what we've got, and move on and make the regulations better. And the more you do that, the more successful that you're going to be. You want to be more successful than other people, another thing that you have to keep in mind is customer service. Customer service and reaching out to your customers is something that's extremely important. I really liked a lot of what Amber had to say in the last panel because she hit the nail on the head about the way we do things today, the way we advertise, and the way we have to adapt. This industry is a business. If you don't, you won't be successful. So the things I really want you to take away from this conference and from the panel today, at least for me, is being regulatory compliant and fighting and moving forward, being a part of that process. Not sitting back and waiting, somebody else is going to get this done. Now, I wasn't the only person that worked on these regulations in Santa Rosa. One of the key players in this thing was one of my fellow panelists, Robert Jacob. He was the mayor of Sebastopol, like they said, and even before he was the mayor, he was really one of the persons spearheading this thing to change these regulations in Santa Rosa. Even though he didn't have a dispensary in Santa Rosa at the time. He was working in Sebastopol. Maybe he knew he was coming, maybe he wasn't. But he did it, I think, because he believed it was the right thing to do. They weren't great regulation. It was workable, but nobody was going to be super prosperous, and you weren't going to be able to help as many people as you really wanted to help, especially in a city like that. So sitting back and waiting for other people to do this isn't really the answer. We've got to get involved and we've got to do it. And that's what I've done since I started doing this, is making sure that we're moving forward through proper regulation and doing something about it.